Hey there, welcome to yet another video by Fashion Insiders & Co. I am the founder, Desi Tsolova, and in today's video I will talk to you about fashion manufacturing and in particular the difference between the two most popular manufacturing methods, CMT and fully factoring. So most small brands and industry newcomers underestimate the production process. Not only do they leave it till the end to find a suitable factory, but often they also don't know the best way to produce their production and what are the manufacturing options in front of them. As I mentioned earlier, there are two main options available to most fashion brands working within the industry, and they are CMT and fully factoring. Now, CMT stands for cut, make, and trim, and these tend to be small manufacturing units who tend to work with small designers. And the way they work is that the designer would have assembled all their raw materials, they would have developed a pattern with a pattern cutter, and they would book manufacturing space with the factory and would deliver them all the raw material and components necessary to make the product. In other words, the factory would only provide the workers and the labor. They would take the raw materials delivered to them, they would cut the fabric with or via the pattern provided for this purpose. They would make or assemble the pieces and make the product, and they would trim it in order to finish it off. Now, the advantages of working with factories like this are many. For starters, very often they don't have any minimums or have very small minimums. Therefore, they're very well suited for startups and for small brands or for brands who repeatedly and often launch small collections or limited collections, and they're not able to work with larger factories who require a bigger minimum order quantity. In other words, working with this type of factories offers greater flexibility for brands that are just starting out and require that extra support and flexibility in the manufacturing process. Some of the disadvantages of working with CMT factories is the fact that they usually tend to be small units. They tend to be units of less than 30 workers, and therefore they are sometimes not that experienced in some of the business problems that young startups and young designer brands face. Sometimes these type of factories are short on skills or have inexperienced staff, which can lead to problems in quality. And because of the nature of the business they provide, the nature of the type of clients that they work, in other words, small brands, startups, they lack a steady flow of clientele, and as a result, their cash flow is very often uneven, leading to potential problems in staffing and delivering on time of production. Finally, another disadvantage of working with CMT factories is that if a mistake was made by the factory, very often you, the brand or the designer, is responsible for the replacement of these raw materials, which means that this is an extra unaccounted for expense for your business. On the other hand, working with fully factored factories is a whole different level of manufacturing, usually better suited to larger brands, brands that have been in operation for a number of years and are able to meet and work to minimum order quantities set by these larger factories. Now, the nature of the fully factored process is that a factory is responsible from being given the production order to deliver a fully finished product at the end. So that means that in the process of sampling, they have learned how to make the product, they know where the materials come from, and once the production order is given to them, they are responsible for the actual ordering and financing of the raw materials, and making the products, the garments, as per the approved sample they agreed upon. And they are then able to sell the fully finished product back to the designer who placed the order with them. These type of factories tend to be bigger. They tend to have a certain minimum order quantity depending on the size of the factory, depending on the type of market that they work for and brands they work for. And these type of factories very often, because of their size and resources available to them due to their financial ability to fund more resources, they offer pattern cutting skill, quality control, as well as additional services like some clients may have account managers who look after them and liaise with them in terms of answering emails, queries, and communicating how the production process is going. Now, some of the obvious advantages of working with factories like this is that there is less work necessary for the designer, for the brand to do. You simply put an order together, pass it to the factory, and then potentially at the end you check the quality of the product before it is shipped and delivered to you fully finished. However, on the downside is that very often these factories are so large that you tend to not have a proper contact and a close relationship with the people making your products. There is a certain loss of control over the manufacturing process, and you don't necessarily feel as part of the making of your products. Another slight disadvantage may be the fact that prices tend to be a little bit more expensive compared to the prices that you would get from working with cut, make, trim factories. But that is for obvious reasons. They finance and pay for all the raw materials, and they finance upfront all the materials necessary for the making of your garment, and they take the risk of you potentially not buying those garments right at the end, depending on the type of payment agreement you have with them. However, on the upside, another clear advantage of working with these factories is if there's a mistake that happens, clearly the factory is then responsible for it. And very often designers don't even understand that mistakes have happened during the manufacturing process because they have swiftly covered up and dealt with. Having explained the difference between CMT and fully factored factories, it is obviously clear that when you're first starting out, it is advisable and better for brands to start working with CMT factories. These are more flexible factories where also designers can be more involved and learn the manufacturing process simply by the fact that they would have to compile all the components necessary. They would realize the amount of work and calculation that goes into making a sample and then production. But the aim of any brand should be really, ideally, in order to grow and scale, to at some point move to fully factored manufacturing, whereby your time will be saved, you would be released from the responsibility of running around and gathering raw materials. That responsibility will be delegated to the factory, and the ownership of creating a beautiful product that is well made, quality controlled, properly shipped and packed to you lays with the factory, which really would allow you much more time to focus on the business rather than on the minute details of arranging your production. Those type of factories also tend to be more financially stable and able to allow you to grow as a business, or for them to grow with you and offer that support that you would need as a growing fashion brand. So I hope this video explains to you the difference between CMT and fully factored manufacturing, and you can clearly see the advantages and the disadvantages of working with this type of factories and what is the best way for you. And if you like our videos and the content that we put, please subscribe to our channels, click on the little bell, be the first one to be notified when we release more videos. And as always, if you have any comments or any questions or need any information, please drop them below in the comments and check out our website and many articles and further free information we have for you there at fashioninsiders.co. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.